And now it's time for our interview of an interesting person. Today is going to be so much fun. Today we have the one, the only, the amazing Jackie Bailey. Jackie is a speaker, trainer, and director of the Speak Feed Lead project.
Hi, everybody.
So first off, how are you enjoying being on the show?
Are you kidding me? This is so fun. I teach kids how to do podcasting, and so to watch you in action is magnificent.
Thank you. So you are the director of the Speak Feed Lead project. Can you tell me exactly what that is?
Yes, the Speak Lead Project is a nonprofit that I founded and now direct. And my mission in doing so is to help children, teens, and adults to speak with power, to feed others in word and deed, and to lead with positive influence. And we do that through lots of courses, camps, workshops, all in public speaking.
Wow. So why did you start this nonprofit organization?
That's a wonderful question, and I'll try to shorten the story a little bit. It's because when I was your age, Tiberius, I lived in a very unhappy home, and I did not have opportunity to speak. And I was silenced through abuse and being told not to tell about the abuse that was happening to me. And now that I'm an adult person, I can teach kids how to have a voice and how to not be silenced by those around them. So that's why I started the nonprofit.
Okay, well, how long have you been doing this?
I've been teaching kids for about 30 years or so, but about 7 years ago, I started teaching specifically public speaking skills. And 3 years ago, I started the nonprofit to do it in that regard as well.
Okay. So what services do you offer at the Speak Feed Lead project?
We have courses that are 8 weeks long for grades 4 and 5. We have the same 8-week classes for grades 6 through 8. And then we have 6-week workshops for high school, college age youth, and adults. And then we also have summer camps. We have summits and other types of workshops that we put on once in a while.
Okay. So how did you know that this was a go-to job for you?
Well, in 2015, I competed in a speech contest called the World Championship of Public Speaking. And it started with 33,000 competitors, and I made it to the top 98.
Wow.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome. And when I finished competing, there was a homeschool group who called me and said, "We want you to come teach a group of our kids public speaking skills. Would you do that?" And I said, "Of course I will." And so I started teaching about 8 or 9 kids in about a 9-week course. And then they wanted another 9-week course. And then another school sent some kids over for another course. And that's where it began, where I realized
I should make a business. I should make a living out of this. I mean, I could make money.
exactly. But more important than that, even, was I could see the tremendous impact it was making on these young people like you who, for perhaps the first time, were discovering that they had something valuable to say and that people would be willing to listen to them. So.
So how does working in this field make the world a better place?
Well, I know that, Tiberius, you're likely going to be the next president of the United States. Or at least you're going to be there someday. And so you and the rest of your peers and a little younger than you and older than you are our future leaders. And you need to understand how powerful your voice is. And the world needs to understand that your perspective is worthy of being looked at, considered, and that your voice needs to be heard. So that's the impact that I'm hoping to make in the world.
Does it take a lot of formal training to become the director of a nonprofit?
Well, I didn't have any formal training. I took some business courses. I have an associate's degree in business administration, so I did have a little education. But for me, it was finding what I was passionate about and finding something that I had some skill in. That was all it took for me to say, this is what I'm going to do. So maybe It's better to have a little more education and training, but I don't think you need to make it successful.
Mm-hmm. So what was the best part about doing this type of work?
The best part is seeing young people just like you do things just like you're doing and realize that they really have some life experiences that have taught them amazing lessons, and that those lessons can now be inspiring messages for everyone who hears them. That's what I love.
Mm-hmm. Well, what was the one thing that when you started to work in this field that you did not expect?
I did not expect a pandemic. Because I'm sitting right now in my public speaking studio that I opened up in the summer of 2019. We became a nonprofit in December of that same year, and then
And then
3 months
COVID
later,
hit. Well,
three
no,
months
COVID actually hit
later,
in 2019 December.
it
So
did. We didn't. It wasn't impacting us until about March of 2020, and so all of the classes that we were having in person now had to go online, which
it's like
meant we had to rework our curriculum and stuff to
it's
make that
kind of like
happen.
a heart radar. It's like the heartbeat. It just goes. Uh,
Well,
just goes
luckily it
straight.
wasn't. It didn't completely deadline,
Yeah,
but
it
it
did
was
it. It's
a
like
little
a
bit
little bit.
slow. Yeah, thank
Yeah.
goodness for that. It still kept beating, but it was slow. It was a slow heartbeat.
Hmm. So, what was the hardest part about being the director of a Speak Feed Lead project?
Oh, I think the hardest part for me right now is because of so many challenges through the pandemic. I'm kind of a one-woman show, and I have a lot of people that support me, but not anyone else that does the day-to-day work with me. So I'm not only the director, but I'm the instructor, and I'm the bookkeeper, and I'm the marketer and the promoter, and I'm doing all of that. That's what makes it a little more challenging. We're hoping to scale. That means to get a little bit bigger and add more people to our employment soon. But for since the pandemic, it's been just me.
Hmm. So, is running a nonprofit a good business to be in?
I think generally speaking, if you have a passion for something and you feel that that passion can impact the lives of many people, I think a nonprofit is a wonderful business to begin so that you can see that happen. Through the pandemic, it's been challenging for nonprofits to survive, and a lot of them have not. So that's been a sad, sad thing. But I think generally speaking, if you feel called to do it, you should do it.
Okay. So, what have you learned about yourself while doing this type of work?
I have learned that I have more energy than I ever thought that I did because I have to wear so many hats during the day and take on so many roles. But I
Well, do
also
you have
realize,
any hats? Kind
you
of
know,
like mine.
I don't look good in hats. You look excellent in a hat. Not so much.
I think I
So
look better than hoodies.
definitely.
What advice would you give to my listeners if they wanted to grow up and run their own nonprofit?
Well, I don't know if I have a message about them running their own nonprofit, but I would tell your listeners that if they want to learn how to speak more powerfully and more confidently and want to actually be on worldwide stages where people will listen to them by the thousands, then they should check out what we do because it might just be what they need.
What was the craziest thing that has happened while you were doing your job?
What's the craziest thing? The craziest thing that happened while doing my job, I didn't realize that when we first started with a mission to teach public speaking, that we could actually, within a short period of time, put our students on actual speaking stages.
Mm-hmm.
Because before the pandemic, if I wanted to get one of my students to speak on a stage, I would have to probably travel somewhere with them. We'd have to stay overnight somewhere and they'd have to get ready to be on the stage. But since the pandemic, so many opportunities to speak are now virtual that since March, we have put 50 of our students on stages to
Wow.
speak at global summits. And that's something that I never could have imagined being possible when we first started. That's kind of crazy.
I remember before I started my show, I go to a Christian school, so we had chapel every morning. And then sometimes on a Friday, we would have like TCS news. And I'm like, how did they do that? I mean, they're right over there, so how did they come up on the TV? And then I learned about it. And now I'm in 6th grade. I started the show 4 years ago, and I'm now in TCS News. Doing TCS News, because in middle school, you get to choose an elective, and that elective was digital media. And I'm in digital media.
That's awesome. That's crazy. Is this something that you think you're going to continue doing?
Probably. I'm probably going to do it next year for the first semester. Second semester this year, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'll have to choose.
Yeah, well, you don't have to choose right now. But like I tell my students, you have to keep doing what you love, and you have to keep speaking about what's important to you, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, what is the greatest challenge that most executive directors are dealing with today?
Oh, I think the biggest challenge we have is growth. Growth is hard to do right now. The future seems a little uncertain for a lot of businesses, especially small businesses. And so it's just it's a matter of trying things. You think, well, this didn't work, or it didn't work to where we thought it was going to work. So let's try something else and see how that works. And it's just a matter of what can we do today that's maybe a little bit outside the box that we can try. And not that that's necessarily a challenge, but sometimes you learn that things work or they don't, and you just got to keep on going and, do your best.
Mm-hmm. So my dad said that you used to be a dental assistant. Can you tell me more about that?
I did. Right out of high school, I was talking to a friend of mine, and she was saying that her sister had just joined this school to be a dental assistant, and I'd never thought about that before. And for some reason, when she said it, I just felt like, oh, that's what I need to do. So I found a way to get to dental assistant school. It was about a year long, and then I had to work for a month free without pay at a dental office to get some real world experience. And then that particular dental office hired me to stay full time on. And so I did that until I had my first baby. And then I worked a little bit after she was old enough for me to leave her. And then I had a second baby. And then I went into surgery, dental surgery. Boy, I'll tell you what, Tiberius, that was fun because I got to go into the hospital and do jaw surgeries where we were reshaping people's faces. It was amazingly fun because you could see the change immediately in what this person looked like. So that was very enjoyable.
I hope I don't have to go through that. I've already been through braces and I'm about to go through a Invisalign.
Yeah, I don't think you need jaw surgery, but there are some
I remember. I had 4 baby teeth a couple weeks ago. I now have 2, but I'm about to have 1 left.
Did you pull them yourself? You
I
did?
have 1 that's really loose.
Because some kids, they can't do it themselves, and then they don't want anybody else to do it either, so they kind of panic and they're not sure how to handle it.
So what I do for little kids out there that want to pull out their own tooth, be brave and just twist.
Twisting. That is
when it's loose. When it's loose that enough, start twisting, and then start pulling and twisting, and then boom, out. Didn't feel a thing.
Works. So then, what do you do with them? Do you put them under your pillow?
I put them in like a special tooth case that I get from my school because I always somehow lost the tooth at my school, and I still have the same case, and I just put it in there and put it under my pillow, or just keep it there. Boom, it's there.
Yeah. So what does the tooth fairy bring you? Anything?
Well, she doesn't bring me money anymore. Instead, she brings me like these Chinese coins because my dad uses that as currency for computer time.
Oh.
And the tooth fairy gives me like 10. So that's 10 times 30, which is 300 minutes on the computer.
Nice. Is that worth losing teeth for?
What made you switch from being a dental assistant to running your own nonprofit?
Well, I actually didn't make that particular transition. I had moved out of dentistry a while before I started a nonprofit. I written a book about how dental teams can be better leaders. Actually, I started writing that book, and then I became part of a nonprofit organization called Toastmasters International that helps people with their public speaking skills. And I became a leader in that organization, which was completely volunteer. And while I was doing that, I didn't have time to write my book. But then when I finished 4 years of leadership, I had a new perspective on leadership and wrote a different book. And so that book is called Self-Centered Leadership, Becoming Influential, Intentional, and Exceptional. And once I started writing that, I started teaching businesses how to be better leaders overall, not just dentists. So I was a little bit out of the dental industry before I decided to do public speaking, although it was Toastmasters International that prompted me to do that contest in the
Hmm.
first place.
What was the
So
one part about your organization that you are most proud of?
I am most proud of the fact that we empower voices for people. I was just talking to a client today who's preparing himself for a contest, and I've been helping him to work on his message and bring out his stories and deliver them well. And he's so excited and was talking about how he just feels like it was always there in him, which is completely true, but he wasn't sure how to draw it out and how to say it in such a way that an audience would want to hear it. And so
Hmm.
that brings me so much joy to be able to say that I've helped even just one person to do that.
Hmm. So my dad said that you do speeches in training. I got to do my first speech a few months ago, and it was a ton of fun. So what is more fun for you, doing speeches or running a nonprofit?
Well, I definitely enjoy speaking. I mean, I enjoy both, and I don't get to speak as much as I'd like to anymore because I'm doing the day-to-day nonprofit. But I wanted to ask you, where did you speak? Can I ask you that? Where did you speak and what did you say?
I gave a speech at the Week of Kindness.
You know what? I know that. You know how I know that?
Because you
Is
were there.
because, yeah, I was there and five of my students also
Ah,
spoke on that same summit.
wow.
So, yeah, and I think that's where I first saw you.
Hmm. So what advice would you give to my listeners if they wanted to grow up and be a speaker?
I hope they do want to grow up and be a speaker. And the advice that I would give them is to start speaking now and to decide what is it that I know. It could be soccer. It could be how to play a video game. It could be your favorite book, whatever it is. Think about what is it that you know. Think about how you know it. What gave you that passion for it? What gave you the desire to learn that? And what's made you good at it? Does it take practice? Does it take time,
Oh,
skill,
it
whatever it
takes
is?
practice to play
Yeah,
bowling.
it does. And then just start talking to people who have the same likes about that kind of thing and just
Okay.
have conversations with people and just get confident about conversing,
Well,
just like
talking
we're doing.
about skills, I see you've been interviewed by lots of people about your skills. Well, what is the one question that people ask you way too many times?
Hmm. I don't know if I get asked the same question too many times, but I do like it when
Of
they
like,
ask me
what do you
about,
do?
yeah, well, I get what does the Speak Feed Lead project do, which is pretty typical. And
Yeah.
I tell them what I told you earlier is that we really strive to empower the voices of kids and give them confidence to get up on stage and speak, or just teach them how to be good friends and how to find healthy friendships by starting conversations with people and listening, actively listening, because we have two ears and one mouth, so that means we have to listen twice as much as we actually speak.
Mhm. So, what is that one question that you wish that they would ask you?
Well, I wish they would ask me, how can I get my child into your programs? Because I think that all children can benefit by feeling confident in speaking to people. It's interesting, Tiberius, when I was having in person classes, I would ask my students to stand in front of each other and just see if they could look at that partner eye to eye and talk. What do you think happened?
They started talking.
Well, they laughed before they actually started talking. They felt so uncomfortable looking at someone like that they would just start to giggle and then they would laugh. And I realized, oh, we've lost this vital skill of just knowing how to talk to people and feel confident in that. So that's what we do first when we start our programs is we teach kids
It's
how to have conversations.
it's like they like, and then it was just like. So yeah. What message do you want to show children all over the world about being the director of the Speak Feed Lead project?
I want to tell them to speak. I want to tell them to stand up, speak out. Don't be afraid. What you have to say is worth being heard, and we need to all listen to it. In fact, can I tell you a little story?
Sure.
My grandson was about 9 years old when I was hosting a podcast, and I asked him to come on my show as one of my guests. And the question I asked him, his name is Sam. I said, Sam, if you had 5 minutes and everybody in the world came into your living room and they said, Sam, tell us the most important thing you want us to know. I said, what would you tell them, Sam, if they were right there? He said, well, first of all, I'd tell them to get out of my living room. And then he said, the second thing I'd say is get off the video games and go spend time with your family. I know, but I thought how wise that was at 9 years old to realize that the games are fun. And I don't think he was saying don't play them at all.
Yeah.
He was saying make sure that you also balance that.
Smart
fun
kid.
with
That's a
time
smart
with your
kid.
family. But that's what I mean is he was only 9 and it was brilliant. And so I know that all children have those brilliant intelligences that they need to share through their voice.
Well, I run a radio show and podcast that talks about God, my line strong segment. How do you include God's message in your work?
How do I include what? God's message?
Mm-hmm.
I teach kids about values. I help them to identify the values that they already possess and the ones that they admire in other people. And I teach them that when they're having conversations with people, the objective is to learn that person's story and to learn how that person knows something interesting that they can learn about that person. And what that has done, Tiberius, not only has it given our students empathy, but it's helped them to see the value in other people and recognize that we're all God's children and that we all need to be heard and we all deserve to be heard and that we're enough and worthy just by being who we are. Mm-hmm. So in that way, I think I'm doing a lot of God's work. I don't call it God's work in our classes, but we do focus a lot on values and what that means and how does that help us to identify who we are.
Mm-hmm. What was the biggest mistake you ever made, and how did it change you as a person?
My biggest mistake. It wasn't really a mistake, but it did cost me a job. So it was in the days when phones used to flip them open. You probably don't remember that, but yeah, flip phones. So you'd flip them open, and
I have a best friend that has one.
Okay. Well, it was sort of in the early days of that, and they had these hands-free cords. So you would plug it into one end of your flip phone, and then these earphones would be in your ears, and so you could drive that way. Well, at that time, I was in the process of, I just got a new phone, and I was in the process of looking for a new job, and I had this interview with a person that lived out of state from where I lived, and so we had tried to contact each other through the phone, and we were playing this phone tag, I call it, where I'd call her and she'd leave I'd leave a message for her, and then she'd return the message, but she couldn't get a hold of me, so she'd leave a message on my voicemail, and we were caught in this cycle, right? Well, on this one day, as I was on my way to work, I thought I'm going to call her one more time and see if I can't get a hold of her in person. So I pull out my flip phone, and I've got my hands-free device in my ears, and I dial the number. And then I get her secretary and I say, I'd like to speak with whatever her name was, Alice or something. She goes, well, she's not quite here yet, but I'll put you in her voicemail. I'm like, here we go again. So I go to her voicemail and I leave this very professional message about how I'm looking forward to finally getting to talk to her and da 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 da. And then I closed my phone and I thought it was off. And so I still driving on my way to work. The radio is on and a great song comes on. So I turn the volume on the radio up and I start singing, Dancing Queen, feel the beat of the tambourine. I'm singing this, right? And about a minute into the song, I hear in my ear, if you'd like to continue leaving a message, please press 1. And that whole time I was singing to this potential employer and I didn't realize it. And I about died of embarrassment. Needless to say, she actually never called me back. So maybe part of the job description was I had to be a good singer and she realized I wasn't. So I didn't get the job.
Okay. Well, is there anything else you think my listeners should know about you?
Is there anything else they should know about me? I have 4 grandchildren that are ages 13. My grandson Miles is going to be 9 on Saturday. And then I have twin granddaughters, Cece and Etta, who are 7. And so I understand some of the challenges kids have today. And I know what it's like to be young. I know what it's like to be silenced. So I have a good idea of how I can help you to feel better about who you are. So I think that's important for you to know. And because I've been a competitor, a speech competitor, I know what it feels like to be on that stage and have to design a speech that's very concise, but also very inspirational at the same time. And I think our programs are amazingly fabulous for that.
Okay. Well, do you have a website or Facebook for my listeners who want to follow you?
Absolutely. In fact, if you go to JackieBailey360.com, you will find all of my websites, all of my social media sites. You will find some videos about me, everything. That's the hub for everything to get to me. So that's JackieBailey360.com.
Mm-hmm. Well, what is the one question that you think I forgot to ask you?
You didn't ask me about the trophies behind me.
Well, what are they about?
Those are some of my speaking trophies. One of them is for becoming the District 2 International Speech Champion, and the other is for becoming the District 2 Evaluation Champion, which means that not only am I a good speaker, but I also know how to give helpful feedback and critique to other speakers. So I'm champion in both of those.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you, Jackie, for being my special guest. Can you stick around for Math Corners?
Absolutely. I wouldn't miss it.